This lesson is graphing linear functions. The goal is to graph a linear function. What you should understand by the end of this lesson is that a function whose graph is a line is called a linear function. A linear equation can have a positive, negative, undefined, or zero slope depending on the equation. So here are the four slopes of a line, of a linear function, because a linear function is a straight line. This is a positive slope. It starts at the bottom left and goes up and to the right. A negative slope goes down to the right. A zero slope is a straight line that goes horizontal, and an undefined slope is a vertical line. Those are the four slopes. Now, when we graph a linear function, it's easier to use rise over run when we're doing slope of a line. But there are two special lines that you need to know. When you have an equation of y equals a number, there are no x's. It's just y equals a number. The other one is x equals a number. You will not have a y in the equation. Those are the two special lines. And here's what makes them special. Y equals a number is a horizontal line. It never crosses the x-axis. That's why it does not have an x in the equation, such as y equals 2 or y equals negative 17. There are no x's in it. It never crosses the x-axis, and it has a zero slope. The other line is x equals a number. X equals 4. X equals negative 1.6. It is a vertical line. It never crosses the y-axis. There is no y in x equals 4. And it has an undefined slope. It is straight up and down. We can't define that slope. So those are the two ones that you need to pay attention to. Now, because I don't have a straight edge or the ability to draw a real straight line, these lines aren't going to be really straight. You're going to use a straight line or a straight edge or ruler when you do your practice problems. But you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about or how to do this when I show you. So they've given us slope and they've given us y-intercept. And they want us to graph that line. So the first thing I'm going to do is graph the y-intercept, which is at negative 6. That means the point where it touches the y-line or the y-axis is at negative 6. So that's my first point. When you graph a line, you need at least 2 points. So I've got my first point. When x is 0, y is negative 6. Now my slope is positive 1/2. So I know that my line is going to go up and to the right from there. And my slope is 1/2. That means for every one that I go up, the rise, I'm going to go over 2. So I'm going to go up 1 and over 2 and put my second point. And now I have 2 points and I can draw a line, and that is the graph of a line with a slope of 1/2 and a y-intercept of negative 6. Now it's your turn. You're going to graph a line with a slope of negative 7 and a y-intercept of 1. Do your practice 1 problem now. Our next problem says graph this function using intercepts. That means we want to know what y is when x is 0 and what x is when y is 0. So it's pretty easy because when you multiply something times 0, you get 0. So if I take and I make x 0, then that is gone. And I'm left with 7y equals 56. Well, when I divide 56 by 7, I get y equals 8. So when x is 0, y is positive 8. So there's my first point, right up there at 8. When y is 0, I have 8x. And when I divide 56 by 8, I get 7, positive 7. So when y is 0, x is 8. So I'm going to put my, or 7, I mean. So I'm going to put my other point right there when x is 0. So those are the intercepts. And so now I'm going to connect those. And there is a graph of the line 8x plus 7y equals 56. And the way that this line is, or this equation is written, is called standard form. That is called standard form. AX plus BY equals C. And that is what the graph of that line looks like. Now it's your turn for practice 2. Graph this function using intercepts. 9x minus 8y equals negative 72. Do practice 2 now. This problem says graph this equation, y equals 8. Here's one of the special lines. There is no x. That means it does not cross the x-axis. The line has no slope because in slope-intercept form, the number in front of x is the slope. Well, since there is no x, there is no slope. So I just come up someplace and put a line on 8, and anywhere else, I'm going to put another point on 8. And because I know it's a horizontal line, there's my graph of y equals 8. Now it's your turn. Graph the equation y equals 3. All right, this equation is already in slope-intercept form, and it wants us to graph the line using the slope and y-intercept. Y equals 7x minus 4. The negative 4 is our y-intercept, or where it crosses the y-axis. So that is my first point that I am going to put on the graph. So when x is 0, y is negative 4, so I'm going to put my first point. Now my slope is 7 and it's positive. That's a pretty steep slope, which means I'm going to go up 7 and over 1, because if 7 were a fraction, it would be 7 over 1. So I'm going to go up 7, which puts me at 3, and over 1, and since it's positive, I want the line to go up and to the right, and there's my 2 points, and then I'm going to draw my line, which is not very straight here for me. You'll be using a ruler, and there's a graph of that line. Your practice 4 is for you to graph the line y equals negative 1/2 x minus 6. Do that problem now. Graph the equation x equals negative 5. Again, here's another one of those special lines. This time it's a vertical line. There is no y. That means it does not cross the y-axis. The line is vertical at negative 5, where x is negative 5. So I come put a point and I'm going to put another point, and that is a graph of x equals -5. Your practice 5 is to graph x equals 4. Do practice 5 now. Graph x equals 4. This one says to graph a line that has a slope of -2 and includes the point -6, 5. Well, they give us a point, so I just have to graph that point. So I'm going to go to -6, 5. Put that point on the graph. And now I just have to find a second point. It has a slope of -2, that means the line is going down to the left. So I'm going to go down 2 and over 1. And then I can draw my line, do my arrows, and that is a graph of a line that has a slope of -2 and includes the point -6, 5. Your last practice problem is to graph a line that has a slope of 4/7 and includes the point -7, -10. Do practice 6 now. As you've done those 6 practice problems, think of where you are on the scale of understanding. So at the end of class, you can rate yourself. You're now going to do your IXL lesson and get a 90 or above. That's all for this lesson. Bye. Have a good day.